Yes, I'm still in my gym clothes. We record a lot of these in a day, I'm sorry. Now I need to drink my protein shake because it's been about an hour. Tastes like brown. We really need to figure out a way to work out our timings better, mate. If you've never seen the film Hudson Hawk, that's not all that surprising because according to the box office, it bombed harder than a chubby kid with an adamantium skeleton leaping headfirst into a swimming pool. However, the film is famous for one persistent myth that says Bruce Willis uses creative clout to have someone CGI his shitty hairline.
No way.
The story goes that Bruce Willis was sitting in on the editing process after filming had wrapped and saw that Father Time had taken a proverbial lawnmower to his once luxurious head of hair and was so distraught that he insisted that someone, somewhere, do something about it and fix it using those magical special effects he'd heard so much about. The story continues that after hearing this, one CGI artist working on the film apparently had to go through the entire film frame by frame and fix Bruce Willis's hairline in any scenes where it didn't look that great.
I noticed using the word apparently quite a lot here.
Yeah, I have to do that because after news of this story broke around the time, an insider who'd worked on the movie categorically denied that they'd used CGI to fix Bruce Willis's hair, citing the extreme cost that going through and frame by frame fixing every instance where his hair didn't look quite full or thick enough as being ridiculous.
That sounds completely reasonable though, like it would have been really expensive to go through every frame and do that.
It would have been really expensive to do that, which is why I like to counter their counter by saying that the film was originally supposed to cost about $42 million to produce, and it ended up somehow going $30 million over budget, and no one's quite sure where that $30 million went.
So the theory is that it went to fix Bruce Willis's shitty hair?
The theory is that they used that money as in After Effects and like during the editing process to fix Bruce Willis's hairline and just like hid it under the guise of just doing after the fact edits and touching up using CGI.
How fragile must your ego be, or people's perception of it, that they would think that you could spend $30 million just fixing your hair?
A fact that lends a lot of credence to the idea that Bruce Willis did use his creative clout to go fix my fucking hair in this movie is the fact that Hudson Hawk was basically a vanity project for him. He wrote the movie, and the whole movie itself is just a vehicle for his singing career.
He had a singing career.
Well, he tried to have one, yes. Bruce Willis insists that he can sing, and this movie, basically, the whole plot is that he's a jewel thief / cat burglar who times his robberies with old songs.
Witchcraft.
3 minutes, 57 seconds.
Night and day.
Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald.
Sinatra.
5 minutes, 12 seconds.
And so what he does is he sings the song out loud as he's committing the robbery so he knows what the timings are. And the whole crux is that it just gives Bruce Willis a chance to show off that he can sing.
Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar.
I'm not going to say Bruce Willis can't sing. I'm just going to let the clip that Brad just put speak for itself. But bearing in mind, this is a movie that Bruce Willis wrote, paid himself about $10 million for writing, purely as an excuse for people to watch him sing.
You could be swinging on a star.
And then think, is his ego enough that he would also at the same time fix his shitty hairline? Because if you find a picture of Bruce Willis around the time this movie was released, his hair doesn't look great. So it's never looked great in any movie he's been in unless he's playing a guy who's bald. I didn't think he was losing it when he was like throwing Professor Snape off Nakatomi Plaza. Again, this is only a rumour, but it's a very persistent one that a lot of people think is true. Just because like there's all this money that went into behind like After Effects and the post-production process, and no one really knows what it was used on because the film isn't that impressive from a visual standpoint.
Shut up! Just 2 more minutes. I was so close.
Thinking about it now, when did this film come out?
1991.
So the CG back then, would that have even been good enough to have done this throughout the entire film?
Well, I'd like to just point out that this film came out the same year as Terminator 2. And that Terminator 2's budget was $5 million more than Hudson Hawk's eventual budget of 42 million plus the extra 30. So 5 million in Hollywood terms is basically nothing. So these movies basically cost about the same to produce if you factor in all the extra bullshit they put into Terminator 2, because it was an ensemble cast with like all the random people they put in that.
Did Hudson Hawk actually have any action in it at all?
A bit, but what you can do now, Brad, for people watching at home is compare an action fight scene from Hudson Hawk. Okay, did you watch that, guys? Now compare it to just this random scene from Terminator 2. And just remember, those two films cost the exact same amount of money to produce. And obviously as well, Terminator 2, a lot of their budget went immediately to paying Schwarzenegger. I'm pretty sure like 20 million of it went straight to just paying Schwarzenegger to appear in the movie.
It does seem a little bit suspicious that they cost almost the same, and yet one looks vastly more superior to the other.
Yeah, and you could argue, though, obviously Terminator 2 had Stan Winston Studios working on it, and that's the reason like the special effects and the effect in that movie is so visually impressive. But at the same time, Hudson Hawk had the exact same amount of money being thrown at it. And it was also pitched as like a big vehicle for Bruce Willis, who at the time was quite a big star. So where did that money go? Because as far as I remember, there's not a scene in Hudson Hawk where the Arnold Schwarzenegger punches a liquid metal time assassin so hard its head explodes. There's not a scene where a robot on a motorcycle jumps off a bridge into an aqueduct while firing a shotgun one-handed over his shoulder. There's not a scene in Hudson Hawk where Jeanette Vasquez from Aliens stabs her husband through a bottle of milk with a big giant sword arm. There's not a scene where Robert Patrick, playing a police officer / robot liquid metal time robot killer from the future, steps in liquid nitrogen and just breaks apart. There's not a scene where a guy flies a helicopter under a bridge, a stunt that was fucking real, by the way. I know we're talking about Hudson Hawk, but I need to mention this. That scene you just watched, that guy flying a helicopter under a bridge, was real, and they couldn't get a guy to do it because they didn't think it was possible until the person who was like supposed to be like choreographing the stunt or something went, no, I'll do it. And just fucking flew a helicopter under a bridge, and they thought it was impossible. I said, no, of course it's possible, I can do that. But no, those movies cost exactly the same amount, and a mysterious $30 million disappeared from the budget of Hudson Hawk. And no one's really quite sure. He went, you know what, that makes it more plausible that it went on something no one noticed. Because obviously the whole point of making his hair look better with CGI would be that it's not noticeable. He's only touching it up. They didn't like, people probably think it's going to be like the Superman thing, where that's the CGI a mustache off his face.
It looked fucking awful.
It did look awful, but it wasn't that. It was basically just the thing, it wasn't that they fixed his hair and gave him like a giant wig or something like that. They just filled it out.
So Make it a bit thicker.
Looked a bit fuller, looked a bit thicker, so it was thinning a bit on top, and that's what it was. Which obviously that wouldn't be noticeable. Maybe it's like you're a visual effects student, you've like done this for many years. Maybe you'll be able to take a look at a scene and be able to like lend a critical eye to it.
Well, if other people haven't been able to say it for 100%, I won't.
Well, that's the purpose of CGI, though, isn't it? Blending it with reality to make it difficult.
Bringing his hairline forward would have probably been almost impossible back then, but just making it look a bit fuller, that would have been plausible.
Doing it frame by frame. Yeah. And it's plausible as well that it would cost about $30 million to do that. So I have to mention to the audience, we can't say with any authority that this is 100% true. All we can really go on is the fact that it's a persistent rumour. There's a giant hole in the budget that's unaccounted for, and just decades of evidence that Bruce Willis is a huge asshole.
Most recently with Expendables.
Oh yeah, like in his movies, he's terrible when it comes to stuff like Expendables was the one where they offered him $4 million for 3 days' work.
I think it was $3 million. He wanted $4.
He wanted $4 million, refused to do it, so they got Harrison Ford instead. It's like, that's a trade-up. There's Cop Out with Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith came out and said making Cop Out with Bruce Willis was one of the most depressing experiences of my professional life, because Bruce Willis just clearly didn't want to be there the entire time and just ruined the entire production process by just inserting himself into every aspect of it. And obviously I listen to him, he's Bruce fucking Willis. Of course he knows how to make an action movie. He's like, no, it's just all stuff to like make his own, to satisfy his own ego.
Also, inserting yourself into every aspect of it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think he's sitting on post-production to make sure he looked right.
Yeah, the fact that he even sat in on the post-production to like make sure he always looked good in every scene. The fact he wrote an entire movie just to like try and launch his singing career when he already was well known in Hollywood for being an action star who was paid millions for every movie anyway.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. I'm on to you, Bruce Willis. I'm on to you.
Why was that guard chasing you?
Because danger, Doc, is my middle name. Oh!
So I'm all finished my lovely brown chocolate drink and I can go to the gym because we're all done. So I'm a right fat knacker after Christmas. I went before this, which is why for the last 3 videos we're in the same outfit and I'm all sweaty because I ran here from the gym and I'm now going back to the gym to finish the rest of my session because I can only film these at certain points in the day when the sun is just high enough to shine through the window.
Which people have noticed in the background.
People started noticing that you can see all the sun behind it, so I had to run from the gym to film these in my outfit and I'm all sweaty and covered. And oh god, I'm a right fat knacker after Christmas, mate. I might as well reveal it, it probably shows in the latest couple of videos. I now weigh 14 fucking stone, which is, what's that in pounds for Americans? It's 14 pounds to a stone.
About 190, 200 pounds?
190, roughly, yeah, I think that's what it was when I checked on the scales. So about 195-ish pounds I weigh.
What were you before Christmas?
Before Christmas, I was about 13 and a bit. It's bad because for my height of about 6'3", on that little chart, you know, you have where it's like healthy weight, underweight, overweight. I looked at it and went, I'm just on the cusp of being overweight. And I went, oh no, those like 6 pork pies I had at Christmas are going to do it. Because that's what happens when I go home for Christmas. My mum's...
You eat 6 pork pies?
No, my mum's really bad for like buying loads of food in and then guilting me into eating it. Where she'll buy like a packet of pork pies and I'll go home and I'm like, Mum, I'm trying not to eat poorly. Have you got any like, I'll just have some chicken for I'll just have like a bowl of soup with some crackers. It's like, but I bought all these pork pies and they're going to go off. It's like, fine, I'll have one. How many is there? Well, there's 6. When do they go off? Tomorrow. I'll have 2 then, Mum. And then you have the second pork pie. And once you have the second pork pie, and they're like 40-odd% of your saturated fat, it's like, well, fuck it, another one's not going to do any damage now, is it? So I ate 6 fucking pork pies in 2 days.
I've already been shot once, I'm not going to lose any more blood.
It's like, oh, and then I had that, and then I ate a load of Pringles as well for New Year. It's New Year's Day, I said, that's it, that's when it begins, that's when my healthy regime starts.
I've heard this story. What was it, Karl? How many feet of Pringles was it?
By the end of the night on New Year's Eve, we had to measure the Pringles I ate in feet and inches because I ate so fucking many. I opened like 3 Pringles tubes and ate one, then ate all of the next one and then got about halfway through a 3rd one before the night was over. So I ate like 2.5 fucking feet of Pringles.
There's 90 Pringles in a standard tube, isn't
Oh, don't work it out. That's a lot of Pringles.
Which means, Karl, if you've eaten 1.5...
I had like 240 Pringles.
That's nasty. By the way, is that your gym hat?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. This is the hat I wear at the gym. To keep the hair out of my eyes when I'm working out.
I think, Karl, you should show the back of that hat. Well, the front.
Well, what's wrong with the front of that? If Ash could wear it when he's beating gyms, I can wear it when I beat one. Do you know, no one in the gym has ever pointed this out to me. I got really upset because I was at least one person to get the joke of wearing a Pokemon trainer hat in the gym. No one has ever pointed it out or commented on it, ever. She's a bit upsetting.
That's a bit depressing. Yeah.
That's my gym hat. So if you ever see a dude, a tall, lanky dude with a bit of junk in the trunk, running in the gym wearing that hat, that'll be me. Oh. Oh God, I'm so fat. I'm so soggy. So soggy around the midsection.